Real quickly before we begin, I want to thank this video's sponsor, CarMarshal.com. CarMarshal.com can save you lots of money on buying used or new vehicles, cars, trucks, school buses. If you want to save money, I'll have a link in the description down below. I know I'm going to...
So we have some additional information from this morning's accident at 7:01 this morning. There was a breach of the North District substation. Based on video surveillance that we have, this breach, it was intentional. So he meant to breach the rear gate. He also breached the wall of the North District substation. No one was hurt other than the driver. He did sustain some minor injuries. We don't know the purpose of why he chose to breach the rear gate and the station. Based on the video, the officers that were inside the station, in addition to an officer that was able to follow him in, acted extremely courageously. They immediately pinned the vehicle against the wall and approached the vehicle. There was a weapon inside that vehicle. There was a safe and some other objects in that car. That's the only reason why we chose to have the bomb squad respond, just in an abundance of caution. There was no explosives in the car. This individual does not have a violent past. He is a local. There really is nothing in his history that would indicate why he would behave this way. He does have a history of narcotics use. We don't know if that was a factor here. It's too early to tell. Our investigators have spoken to some family of the driver of this vehicle, and they did express that over the last couple of days he was acting a bit peculiar, different than what he normally would behave. And so the investigation continues at this point, but what we know for certain was that this was an intentional breach and that there is no violent history to this subject. There was a weapon recovered. Bomb squad investigated. We checked the alley, we checked the surrounding area, and so we just took every caution to make sure that there wasn't any other danger. And I'm happy to report that there wasn't.
Chief, I came in late on this. Can you tell me again, explain exactly what happened about the car hitting the building, the breach, exactly what happened?
Yeah, so at 7:01 this morning is when he breached the rear gate. Now, he was in the area earlier. We don't know the reason for that. That'll be part of the ongoing investigation. But we have video surveillance that shows us that he meant to go through the gate, and it was not an accidental breach. So we know that. We don't know the reason for it. We don't know if he was suffering a medical emergency or what prompted him to do that. He did also plow into the district, the building itself, the structure itself. We have no injuries other than the driver. No officer was harmed. There was a weapon in the vehicle. There was a safe, among other items, and so we thought in an abundance of caution we would have the bomb squad respond. There was no explosives. He has no violent criminal past. We did speak to family, like I mentioned. We had investigators speak to family, who indicated that he has been acting a bit bizarre over the last couple of days.
Very concerning to police chief.
This wasn't intentional, but you're saying that it's still possible it was a medical emergency of some sort?
It's still possible, we just don't know. It would be speculation at this point. What we know for certain it was that it was intentional. What prompted him to do that at this point would be speculation.
Chief, a big concern to you, people could have been hurt here in the police station.
Absolutely, and that's why I feel that after watching the video, I'm incredibly proud of the way that the officers of the North District handled it. We had a sergeant who was in a police vehicle who immediately followed him in, pinned him against the wall there so he wouldn't be able to back up if he wanted to. The officers inside immediately approached the vehicle, weapons drawn, and thankfully no one was harmed other than the driver. And it appears that his injuries were limited as well.
Chief, any concern this could be a copycat situation in Broward County? We had an incident back in March of a woman driving a car into a substation in Hallandale Beach. Any concern about a possible copycat here?
We don't know, honestly. I mean, that would all be speculation. I can assure everyone that it's going to be investigated thoroughly and fully. There's just no reason for us to believe that this is related to anything else at this point. He's local and he's got no prior violent history.
Chief, have you interviewed him yet?
Contact with this substation before?
I don't know that. I don't know that. We'll be looking into that as well, but I don't know at this point.
Chief, can you walk us through, so he crashes through the gate. When did officers, I guess, call it a brief pursuit? Or, you mentioned the pinning. Was that after this person hit the wall, or the person hit the wall because of...
The person hit the wall, and the sergeant that was in his vehicle, who saw him literally breach the gate, immediately came behind him and used his car to make sure to pin him, because he did not know if he was going to put it in reverse, back it up, and try again to go in further.
Hitting the wall, though?
No, he hit the wall, and then the officer was be able to pin him there. Then we see that the rest of the officers immediately responded to the vehicle, weapons drawn, to make sure that he was not going to be able to harm anyone else.
He responded, so.
Anything else, guys?
Wait, what is it about the surveillance video that makes you believe it was intentional?
He was already in the area. We see him drive, and then he approaches at a high rate of speed. He breaches the rear gate. If he would have stopped there, then perhaps it's still a chance that it was accidental, but the fact that he continues, regains speed, and then plows into the wall leads us to believe that it was intentional.
Can you tell us, Chief, what was found inside his vehicle at this point?
There was a safe and other items. There was a firearm. We don't know if the firearm is, at this point, his firearm. All that still needs to be investigated. Really nothing that would stand out inside the vehicle, but again, just to make sure that it was safe, we had the bomb squad respond.
Chief, what's his condition?
Sealed off like this?
As soon as the incident commander deems that it is safe for traffic to drive by, we'll open up the street.
Chief, what's his condition, and have you interviewed him yet, the driver?
We do have investigators that have spoke to him. We will be speaking to him further. There are charges that are pending, and it is my understanding that he's going to be fine.
What would the charges be?
I don't know just yet. The investigators will determine as they investigate further what he's going to be
Can you
charged
tell us
with.
about the firearm and any ammunition or anything like that?
There was a rifle, and I really don't know more beyond that.
What was the suspicious package that turned out to be nothing? What was the suspicious package that we thought was a package? Suspicious.
Well, there was the safe that was inside the vehicle. There was other items. I'm not sure exactly what those items were, but the mere fact that there was anything inside the car would have prompted this response. And again, the idea is just to make sure that there isn't anything. It's just to take every precaution, that's all.
Do we know the name and age of the driver?
I don't have that, but our PI will put that out shortly.
Does the government work for us, or do we work for the government? Tonight, what if the Constitution no longer applied? What if the whole purpose of the Constitution was to limit the government? What if Congress's enumerated powers in the Constitution no longer limited Congress, but were actually used as a justification to extend Congress's authority over every realm of human life? What if the president, meant to be an equal to Congress, has instead become a democratically elected, term-limited monarch? What if the president assumed that everything he did was legal just because he's the president? What if he could interrupt your regularly scheduled radio and TV programming for a special message from him? What if he could declare war on his own? What if he could read your emails and your texts without a search warrant? What if he could kill you without warning? What if Supreme Court justices no longer looked to the Constitution to determine the constitutionality of a law, but rather simply to what justices who preceded them thought about it? What if the rights and principles guaranteed in the Constitution have been so distorted in the past 200 years as to be unrecognizable by the founders? What if the 50 states were no longer sovereign entities, equals to each other, and parents of the federal government they voluntarily constituted? What if the states were mere provinces of a totally nationalized and fully centralized government? What if the Constitution was amended stealthily, not by constitutional amendments duly ratified by the states, but by the constant and persistent expansion of the federal government's role in our lives? What if the federal government decided if its own powers were proper and constitutional? What if the Constitution were no longer the supreme law of the land? What if you needed a license from the government to speak, to assemble, or to protest against the government? What if the government didn't like what you planned to say, and so it didn't give you the license? What if the right to keep and bear arms only applied to the government? What if posse comitatus, the federal law that prohibits our military from occupying our streets, were no longer in effect? What if the government considered the military an adequate dispenser of domestic law enforcement? What if cops looked and acted like troops and you couldn't distinguish the military from the police? What if you were not secure in your person, in your papers, and in your property? What if federal agents could write their own search warrants in defiance of the Constitution? What if the government could decide when you were and were not entitled to a jury trial? What if the government could take your property whenever it wanted? What if the government could continue prosecuting you until it got the verdict it wanted? What if the government could force you to testify against yourself simply by labeling you a domestic terrorist? What if the government could torture you until you said what the government wanted to hear? What if people running for president actually supported torture? What if the government tortured your children to get to you? What if government judges and government lawyers intimidated juries into convicting the innocent? What if the government could send you to your death and your innocence meant nothing so long as the government's procedures were followed? What if America's prison population, the largest in the world, was a cruel and unusual way for a country to be free? What if half the prison population never harmed anyone but themselves? What if the people had no rights except those the government chose to let them have? What if the states had no rights except to do as the federal government commanded? What if our elected officials didn't really live among us, but instead all had their hearts and homes in Washington, D.C.? What if the government could strip you of your rights because of where your mother was when you were born? What if the income tax was unconstitutional? What if the states were convinced to give up their representation in Congress? What if the government tried to ban you from using a substance in your body that is older than the government itself? What if voting didn't mean anything anymore because both political parties stand for big government? What if the government could write any law, regulate any behavior, and tax any event? The Constitution be damned. What if the government was the reason we don't have a Constitution anymore? What if you could love your country but hate what the government has done to it? What if sometimes to love your country you had to alter or abolish the government? What if Jefferson was right? What if that government is best which governs least? What if I'm right? What if the government is wrong? What if it is dangerous to be right when the government is wrong? What if it is better to perish fighting for freedom than to live as a slave? What if freedom's greatest hour of danger is now?
Hey Charlotte County, this is Charlotte County Cop Watch, and I just wanted you to know that I am using this stuff under fair use, and also remember to like and subscribe this channel. Also too, keep in mind I do not make any money on YouTube. This is 5 hours work a day, you know, fighting for freedom. And you can donate with PayPal and Patreon. I just want you to think about this. If everybody gives to PayPal and Patreon, Patreon is every month. Actually, PayPal you can do every month. I have 12,000 subscribers. If everybody gives, I can quit my regular job and go full-time investigations on Charlotte County and possibly even more and beyond. So just keep that in mind. If everybody helps out, I can go full-time doing this. Thanks.